like so many things, it's kind of a conundrum, an enigma, trying to figure out what the state of the consumer. I hear they're trading down. We might be in a recession, and yet you point out how resilient the consumer has been, which is not characteristic given where consumer confidence numbers are. It's bizarre.
Right, right. And when we look at the overall retail numbers, the numbers that the census puts out every month, those numbers are at record highs. And not only are they high compared to last year, even if you account for inflation, they're much, much higher than pre-pandemic levels, which actually makes overall retail at its highest level ever in our recorded history. Now, at the same time, we're seeing some of these retailers like Macy's, like Dick's, experiencing either flatness or in some cases, downtrends in overall numbers. And I think that that's just honestly a reflection of the competitiveness of retail. These are issues that a lot of these companies had even going into the pandemic. So what you're seeing is a little bit of, I think, shaking out of some of those trends. You had a lot of companies gaining share through the course of the pandemic. You had a lot of new competitors coming in that people hadn't even seen before. And when you look at these micro stories, that I think is what we're observing.
We talk about CEOs a lot, and I don't know, sometimes we look askance at their pay, and I think I could do okay at certain companies. There's no way I could you need to be a great CEO to run a retail operation, don't you? So they're above 2019. That's saying something, but half these guys and gals were in the wrong stuff. They stayed at the party too long with pandemics. They're stuck with all this inventory. We hear from a lot of them about markdowns continuing and that they got to get rid of stuff. If you were really good at what you do, have you navigated this? Are there people you can point to that were much better than their peers?
Well, there were companies that were able to lean into extended assortments. They were able to put a lot more of the inventory on suppliers. Companies like Amazon, where a significant portion of their sales, for instance, are happening in marketplaces. A lot of these traditional retailers that have physical stores, they were much more vulnerable to the supply chain issues. So in the beginning of the pandemic, even through last year, there were issues with getting merchandise. Then they got the merchandise, and then there was too much merchandise because it didn't come in at the right time, and they didn't account for the fact that spending habits were changing and consumer preferences were changing. So you're absolutely right. They got stuck with this glut of inventory that then they have to cycle through. And hopefully they will have cycled through it. It's not inventory that's going to be sitting on their books for years. I've seen retailers do that too. But yeah, these are absolutely big issues, and there is no question that I agree. I wouldn't want to be a retail CEO either.
No,
it's
unless you were good. Job. If you're good, you can. And there have been some good ones, and you see how much in demand they are at Questrom and others. How about